And we're back. Wednesday edition, Stripe Show podcast. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. I've given Froggy another week off as he just continues to extend this holiday vacation another week. He'll be back next week, Froggy Wednesday. So it's me and this gentleman here on the right for those watching with video, or if you're just listening, joining me, the managing director of player relations for the USGA up in sunny and warm New Jersey. Jason Gore, how you doing, bud?
I'm great. How are you, Trav? Happy New Year. It's sunny. It ain't warm. We'll probably take my camera on there and show you the white snow-capped plains that we're looking at right now. But it's not a good thing for this SoCal kid.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, you're used to sunny and warm weather, and it's winter, and I get a lot of notes and DMs as I'm posting videos down here in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, and it's like, man, how warm is it there? I'm like, yeah, it's 77, and like, it's a lot of snow and cold happening across the country, but we like to bring a smile to their face here every day on the podcast. I'm excited about this one. We got a lot to get to. Wow, y'all have a lot going on at the USGA. A lot of really good momentum. It seems like every other day there's an announcement, and it's like, wow, that's great news. And then 3 days later, it's another announcement. It's wow, that's really good news too. So it's
more to come.
And more to come. So maybe you can, perhaps indulge us on some exciting things that are coming down the pipeline from the USGA. And we'll get to some of this good news that you have announced. I want to start, though, of course. I mean, it's 2022, so you always got to start with distance. That's the buzzword. Driving distance. Bryson, of course, he's taken it to a whole new level. But, the USGA, you guys put your foot in the ground a little bit, drew a line and said, look, we're going to start here with the driver, 46 inches. That's as long as it's going to be. And you put it into place. You got a little pushback. So I guess, we'll start here. My question to you, why the driver, at 46 and starting there, not only in the men's game, Jason, but also this is in effect for the women's game.
Well, I think, with it being a model local rule, right? Like if you and I, God, we'd love to do this right now. Go out and play golf right now. We could still play with a 48-inch driver, right? Like this is just for tournaments or championships that implement this rule. It's kind of like the one ball rule, right? If it's not stated, it's not really in play, right? So it's got to be on the local rule sheet, or the hard card or whatever you want to call it for the PGA Tour or the LPGA Tour. I think it was just to be fully honest, like it was one of those low-lying fruits of, okay, so we've obviously identified that golf balls are traveling greater distances, whether it's human element or whatnot. But it was one of those things, with technology getting better not even by the day, but by the minute, right? And these kids coming out and, driver lengths, even to just OEM stuff is getting longer and longer and longer. You're going to come out with these kids that, 16 years or 15 years, whatever, young, that are going to learn how to hit the 48-inch driver. Like I keep thinking, Furyk, now that he doesn't do it, but he grew up putting cross-handed. That's just what he knew. So, you're going to get kids that are going to come out and they're going to gain that extra few yards, especially with shaft technology and all these different materials that they're using. Like it's going to get better and better. And so we're just trying to keep a cap on, on what could come down the line with whatever the next step is. And, just to protect these great old golf courses and to keep prices down and, to keep costs down. That's, like we want to make the game available to more and more people. And if golf courses keep getting so expensive to maintain with chemicals and, anything west of the Mississippi, I mean, we know how water is.
Yeah.
There, being a California kid, we know water restrictions, and there's probably, more to come with that. But, just to keep the game available to everyone. Like we want the game to keep growing. COVID's had huge, if there's one good thing that came out of it, golf definitely benefited.
Yeah.
And with this great growth and, number of players we see, like we want to keep it to where it's a long-term longstanding, and I know just that this whole conversation was started way before COVID hit, but it's like we got some momentum right now, and how do we keep costs down, and how do we keep these great American cathedrals of of great golf, everything like that our country has stood for with its type of golf courses. How do we still keep them relevant? And like you just got to keep it to where the golf course architect designed it and keep them kind of almost sacred.
Well, I'll tell you what's not relevant with no wind is the plantation course at Kapalua. I mean, that's no match. No match.
They're just that good.
Yeah.
I've kind of looked through all the data, and one of these now, especially here, like looking through the data and just how much better and faster and trained and fit these players are than my generation, right? Like you've and I just keep thinking every generation gets better. Like our generation was better, with all due respect to them, but just like top to bottom, it's just been deeper and deeper and deeper. And you get these. Tiger made it to where it was cool to be an athlete and still play golf.
Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't that long ago when golf wasn't even considered a sport. It was a hobby, right? So I mean, now I think it's firmly in the sport category.
Yeah, well, Tiger trained, and I don't know if he trained like the best way for golf, but he got bigger and he got stronger, he got fat, all those things. But now I think the training is so pinpointed on how to train, longevity,
what to train, stretching,
what to train. Yeah, I think you made a really good point, though. It's that younger generation learning how to swing that 48-inch driver with this maximization of speed and what that will look like in the next 10 years, right? It's kind of getting out ahead of that curve. And I think it was low hanging fruit. And I think, frankly, USGA you have to start somewhere, right? And I feel like that was the most logical place. Now, I know you got some pushback, as always, right? I mean, it affected Bryson. It affected Phil. It's going to affect Brooke Henderson. Not many players. But on the tour, of course, Phil, he's had a lot to say. Jason, I know you've heard this tweet, but I'll read it. He's had a lot to say about a lot of things over the last couple of years. But word is USGA soon rolling back the driver length to 46 inches. This was his tweet. Of course, when it happens, this is pathetic. First, it promotes
I heard about it.
Yeah. So first, it promotes a shorter, more violent swing, injury-prone, doesn't allow for length of arc to create speed. And during our first golf boom in 40 years, our amateur governing body keeps trying to make it less fun. That's got to be frustrating, I would think, at the USGA to hear something like that with Phil, who's, has been vocal in social media. And that's one of the reasons why he won the PIP, because he does take on some of these things. And anytime you draw a line in the sand, Jason, you're going to get some pushback, and Phil seemed to be the most vocal with him. And how does that land back there in Jersey?
I mean, listen, I consider Phil a friend. He's been super great to me, and he's certainly entitled to his opinion, right? And like I keep telling him, I go, listen, I said, you go to the back tee of any golf course, and it's usually the finest grass on the golf course, right? Like there's not many people play back there, and this is not helping my argument of bringing the golf ball back, but like nobody's saying you can't move up. It's going to make the game faster. It's going to make the game more enjoyable. Like that's the thing is like I said, he's entitled to his opinion, and I'm not going to say he's wrong, because he's not. He's got a point. It's just there's a little bit more to it. And like if you look at past U.S. Open stuff, right? Like the longest U.S. Open golf course was Erin Hills.
Mm-hmm. And
what won at Erin Hills? 17, 18 under?
Yeah.
What was the, like distance doesn't scare the PGA Tour player, right? It's the exact opposite on the LPGA Tour. It's like distance sort of scares them. So, right. So this kind of goes back to course setup, and the way we're looking at course setup now is like north-south doesn't scare a tour player. East-west kind of does. And with the way they're playing, like it still doesn't scare them. Like you saw it last weekend at Kapalua. Like that place is super wide and super long, and it just doesn't scare them. No. So, like what is our best, I don't know, for lack of a better term, ROI on controlling what the golf ball does without crossing into intellectual property of, these great manufacturers. Like we want to give them room to grow, right? To innovate, to do all the great things that they do. And like, we don't want to do that, but what it is I'm stumbling across my thoughts right now. So hanging, like, how do we make it, where's our ROI on keeping these golf courses relevant, prices down, sustainability, all those 2022 catchwords that we want to use, that how do we keep it to where you and I can go out and have a great time?
Well, yeah, I think that drawing the line of between amateur and pro golf that has to happen. And like you said, with the driver length rule, it's a rule, it's a local rule. I mean, you don't have to implement it, right? So basically I could go to where I teach here down the road, Jacksonville Golf and Country Club. And if they're running a tournament, they don't have to implement the rule. If they want to, they can, but that's upon their discretion from an amateur standpoint. Now on the PGA Tour, on the European Tour or DP World Tour now, like it's 46 inches. Like you can't go past that. So it's, like I said, it's probably, you're going to get pushback no matter what, but the golf ball is a much trickier proposition on what's going to happen there. So do you have any announcements there on that? Everybody's gonna be playing the same ball here soon too?
No. And I was just gonna say, like, we have no real interest in bifurcation in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Like we want to be able to go out and say, like, well, Justin Thomas plays this golf ball and you can still buy this golf ball. Like it just doesn't, me personally, I can't speak for, Thomas Pagel and Mike Wan and others involved, but like, I don't think there's any benefit in doing that, right? Like you want to play the golf ball that, and manufacturers want to sell the golf ball that, that the tour players play, because it's I think that's important. And so like, I wouldn't say that bifurcation's really in the cards at all. It just doesn't, because I know that's what probably some viewers are thinking, or listeners are thinking right now. Well, it sounds like they're going to bifurcate. No, I don't think that's even in the cards. But we want to find the happy medium, and we certainly don't want to deter anybody. To Phil's point about hurting themselves or making a violent swing or taking the fun out of the game. That's not it at all. And we just want to find a way that this game can be available for multiple generations to come without it becoming, because it would feel like it's become less and less like Airfinger's quote elitist. That more people are out there playing. Like how do you keep this momentum of coming out, but you're not going to keep momentum if prices keep going up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely the price aspect of it. And, I mean, make your driver as long as you want when you play. Here's the golf ball that flies the longest or spins the most, or I think having all those available to the amateur player and then what makes sense within reason, which is, man, we could probably talk for days, as you guys do on this, about the sustainability of these golf courses and keeping them relevant when you look at these driving distances. And I mean, what is it now? Like the top, I think 50 or 60 are well above 300 miles an hour in club head speed. Before, like you had to, I remember probably when you played, Jason, consistently, the average driver length was probably, distance was 282, 280, I would think, somewhere in there.
I'm not that old.
All right. So 287.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly like 44 and a half inches was just the number that all my drivers were. Now it's 45 and a half, right? Like, yeah. So, I mean, once it goes back to innovation, shafts get lighter, shafts get stronger, right? Like if you had a 45 and a half inch driver with 19, with the early 2000s technology, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like 60. I mean, I look back at some of my old drivers and I had 95 gram graphite shafts in there, and that was just what you played. And now,
you figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that was just, that was what we had. Those are the best. Those felt the best. Those worked the best. I mean, I think it was up till 2006 or 7. I still had steel in my driver. Right. I mean, so, things just keep progressing and keep getting better. And it's awesome for the tour. It's awesome for the amateur game, but like what's next?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that was next, let's move on here, was the Greens book. This was the first week. And this is a professional topic, right? Because amateurs in green book, I mean, okay, your elite, some of your elite amateurs may use them. But this is a big topic, obviously, in professional golf. And on the podcast, we cover professional golf thoroughly. And the Greens book, what I want you to do for the audience, Jason, because this is one of those topics, I get a lot of feedback from my audience, and they're like, well, what was in the Greens book before versus what they added, and now what are they taking away? So like in layman's terms, right? The Green book, they're looking at them, all this additional information. What exactly has been taken away now from the tour player?
So anything that you can use with like an electronic device or a level is now deemed, unusable, illegal, if you will. So you can go out and you can draw lines. You can go out and hit putts to where you think the hole locations are going to be, and you can draw lines in there. They just don't want any hard numbers, or it's like only anything that can be observed through hitting putts or eyeballs or whatnot. And this whole thing came about through the Players Advisory Council. Like they just said, we don't want these anymore. So this really wasn't a USGA thing at all. This was kind of like them, the tour players, the PAC coming to us saying, we don't want these anymore. Can you help us? So this wasn't something that came down out of the ivory towers at the USGA. This was something that the PAC players said, like, hey, we don't want these anymore. And it was voted on, and they said, can you help us? And, obviously being great partners with the PGA Tour, we said yes. So,
so I can't go up when I'm playing. There's the hole. I can't put a level down. That's 2%, and then over here, okay, that's 1%.
Now, if you could do what like Cameron Smith was doing, where he trained himself to stand there, right? You could use it on the practice screen, obviously, and feel it with his feet, like, okay, this is 2%, and then you obviously know that there's a breakdown based on percentage slope and what areas, speed of the greens, the whole aim point. Book, like, hey, I know that this 1.5% putt's going to break X amount at X speed, right? So now it turns into a giant math equation, which is why Bryson was so great at it, right? Like, I can't add 2 + 2, but like it was turned into a science rather than an art. And I think like some of the players that were on the PAC think that this is a skill, and they're right. Like this is a skill to be able to read greens and to know like how hard you're going to hit this and how much it's going to break. There's multiple lines depending on how hard you hit the putt, right? Like if you hit it 4 feet by, obviously you're going to, I like to say, fly it over the break, and it's not going to break, right?
Right.
So if you leave it, hole high, low, then it's going to break more. So, I mean, there's a certain art to matching what it is. And this is not about Bryson. Like I've heard these same things, it's like Bryson, we're looking at stuff that's going to make Bryson, have less advantages. No, it has nothing to do with Bryson. Yeah. With all the due respect to Bryson and how great he is and how he's transformed himself, like this is not a plot to ruin Bryson. Right?
You guys made him take his hat off too. He has to wear a regular hat now too. That came from
It's kind of what it feels like. And then I consider Bryson a great friend, and we've had many great conversations. And like, listen, sorry, man, like probably rightfully so to think that, but it's not. Like so.
Your driver's too long.
He's a champ. So
your driver's too long.
Yeah.
You got too much stuff in your greens book. Yeah. Change that damn hat.
An arm lock and
arm lock and
I feel so bad. It's like I just have to call and be like, oh man, like almost have to be apologetic to him, but I love the kid. He's a great guy, but
all right,
something that the players kind of asked us to go along with, and we're certainly going to oblige.
Yeah. What else is out there? Anything else you can share with us? I mean, I know there's got to be hot topics. You're like, man, if I hear this topic one more time, my head's going to explode. Like bifurcation, the golf ball, driver length, greens books. I mean, these are like the buzzwords I would imagine walking up and down the halls. Hey guys, you ready for that greens book meeting?
Yeah. No,
Any other buzzwords that you can share or no?
I think one of the things with my job is anytime like a player comes up to me and brings up something, whether it's putters or drivers or whatever, I always try to like keep our conversations private.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because I don't ever want to lose that trust. Like
Right.
I said a million times, like I speak tour, right? Spending 20 plus years out there. Like I can look at them and go, dude, come on, really?
Right.
Or, like, hey, you got a great point. Let's talk about this. And I think the more I can keep something like confidential between the players, the more they can continue to trust me. And like, there are things out there. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm just,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get to those points, or hopefully we never get to those points.
Yeah. You started your job in 2019, and it was the first player relation position for the USGA. Now, of course, the PGA Tour has had it. I'm sure the LPGA Tour has it. I'm sure, like they have that player relations, which can be a difficult job because, there's times to celebrate, and here's a win and this and that, and the communication, I'm sure, has improved dramatically from what's happening inside the ropes to guys that are making decisions that affect what happened inside the rope. It's like I compare it to like the general manager of a football team, right? You have the general manager who watches the game from the booth, and then you have the players down here, and there's a dynamic that has to happen there between those two, right? And if it can, then the culture can become really good. But if there's a definitive line between the GM, okay, I'm up here and you guys play, right? I make decisions, you play. I guess that can work to some degree, but man, that culture, if you can have someone, no, hey, let's bring this together and get these interweaving the right way, then all of a sudden trust goes up. They're making decisions on this. Okay, I may not necessarily agree with it, but I'll play along, right? It just kind of makes everything better because the culture gets better. I can't imagine, Jason, the improvements that have been made over the last 3 years since you've been in that position.
Well, listen, I'm very lucky to be here, but I think, and thank you for those kind words. I think we just gave them a voice.
Yeah.
Right? They've always had a voice, but it's like we want to know what the players are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know because listen, this building doesn't have all the answers. And I came in here and I just remember like one of those questions I asked on my interview process, and we were at Pebble Beach, and John Bodenhammer and Jeff Hall, was my Walker Cup manager. So I've known him since 1997, right? So he was always the guy I'd call and say, Jeff, what is this? What's going on here? Why are you doing this? How is this? So I had that person, right? But a lot of people don't. And I just remember asking them a question, like it was basically my first interview. I just met John and I said, with this position, will I have a voice? And I don't know why I asked that question, but it was just kind of, and I think I kind of do because I kind of felt like, well, first off, it's a little narcissism of, don't you know who I am? I've spent, 20 something years. I wasn't the greatest player, but God bless, I saw a lot, right?
Yeah.
I've seen all sides of it, from the goods and the bads. And thinking that I kind of knew stuff that they didn't, which is true. And on the other side, they know stuff I don't. So that it was kind of like, how do we give the players a voice? Like they have to live what we do, right? So, there are repercussions of things that we do that they have to compete on and live with. So I think that's the thing of like, where I'll call John Ron and say, hey, John, what do you think about this? And it could be the little tiny minuscule thing. And the other thing that I always try to do is I'll call either John or, whoever, a past champion or just a regular player and just say, you good? Anything I can do for you? Because they get pulled at by 7 million directions every day.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I just like to call them and just say, hey, man, is there anything I can do for you? You good? Not to bug them, but just to let them know, like, hey, man, we're listening. We're on your side. And we do it the same with the LPGA Tour. Liz Fratkin on on the LPGA Tour does the same thing. And I think it's important to know that, hey, we care about what they think. We want to know what they think. And a lot of that's played into course setup because, it's like when I first got here, they started talking about, like we bring up a certain subject. And within 38 seconds, it was always about, why the heck did you put the whole location there? Right? Like it always went back to course setup. And I started to think like, listen, you can give them caviar and veal and all this stuff. At the end of the day, they care about what goes on inside the ropes because that's what they know. Mm-hmm. And that's great. Like we want to treat them like the athletes and the dare I say celebrities that they are, and treat them with respect and really respect what they do. But at the end of the day, they're golfers. They want to go out and they want to compete in their national. If you're an American, in the national championship, the United States Open or the United States Women's Open, and have a chance to be their best. And how we can prepare them to be their best, that's what we do off the golf course. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to inside the ropes, and they want a good, fair test, but they want to be challenged. And so I think that's the part where we're now listening to what they want, what they expect. Like nothing makes me happier, and this is going to sound really kind of weird, but when a player plays bad and says that was a great golf course.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't want them to play bad, obviously. I want them to walk off and say, I shot 65 today. I played great. But, it's like if the player can walk off and know he had a hard day and, and just say, God, that place was fantastic. Like when Phil said that, right? Like he didn't play great on, I believe it was Saturday at the Open. And I think he even said in the media, like, hey, man, this place is perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I think that to me, like, I don't want him to play bad, but I want him to know that he knows when he hit a good shot and he was rewarded, or when he hit a bad shot and God was busy.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's fair to say there for a little stretch, like USGA, the US Open, it lost its identity there a little bit. At least when I was young and I grew up, and it was like, man, the US Open it's the one, like and NBC would come on and those horns are belting. And I asked Tommy Roy about that, and he told me the story behind that. And I was like, man, right now, like the hair on my neck is standing up a little bit just thinking about it. Like as a kid, you hear that U.S. Open, here it comes. This is the one, and I think it kind of lost its identity there a little bit. But over the last couple years, like you can see now, everything's just kind of moving back. And I thought at Torrey Pines, like it felt like the U.S. Open, like it just felt like, okay, we're getting back now to where we were, and now I feel like, but it's even going to get better. And I believe, Jason, just with like the decisions and the people now that are associated, what you're doing with the player relations side. Mike Wan now we know has come over as the CEO. We know what he did for the LPGA Tour. We know he's a very smart, forward-thinking, bright, energetic. He's got energy. Like it's infectious, and that has value. You just listen to the guy speak, like, okay, I'm going with him, like makes sense to me. Like I'm in. And then, so you got that going, and then you see these decisions and you watch the US Open. It's like, okay, this is cool. I'm getting excited again because it feels like the US Open and the USGA now it's back on track. And we know about Mike, but Fred Purple, say it right?
Yeah, Paul. Yep.
Yes. He's a chairman right now. Now, Fred, he's going to be the president, though. He'll enter in 2023, and he'll be the first African American president since the inception of the USGA. Tell us just a little bit about Fred, and again, it just from what I've heard, sounds like another great move.
Well, one thing I can say about Fred is right at the very beginning when you meet him, you can tell how passionate he is about the game. Mm-hmm. Like he loves the game, like to a point where you're like, dude, calm down a little bit. Like did it for 25 years. It's not that great. Right. So, but he's another, like, he's got a lot of Mike Wan in him, or, Mike Wan's got a lot of Fred Propol in him, but like you could just, once you're around him, you can feel the passion for the game. And not saying that any past president has that, because Stu Francis that we have now he's awesome. Right. But he's a great player. He's won a lot of events as an amateur and loves the game. But Fred, you can just kind of feel like he's a kid, how much he loves
Yeah.
it. Like, you know, he hasn't been playing for a super long time, but you could tell that bug bit him really, really hard. And like, he's just so excited about, you know, he's so excited about everything we're doing and everything that he can be able to lead, and to see the kind of momentum that the USGA's got right now. It's great. Like, he's another guy that you just can't wait to be around, because he's just, you know, you're going to learn something great. And, you know, if you're having a bad day, you know that he's going to come up to you and just, you know, like,
Yeah.
he's going to make everything all right, because the passion that he's got for what he's doing is like, he's just the guy that puts a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Like, all
We
right,
have smart guys and smart women and like smart leaders with a vision, and then they have energy, and now people are, oh wow, he's filling me up. Of course I want to go and be a part of this and be heard, and then take that message to the players and the men and the women, and now it's all just becoming more cohesive with that culture that I'm talking about. And I think the USGA, I mean, look, that from a culture standpoint and that connection to the player, it's difficult because you're not in the same building as the LPGA Tour and the PGA Tour. So it's, you know, like there has to be even more energy to some degree and even more communication and, you know, just to be part of that. So, but it's happening. I can sense it just sitting here. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to reach out with all this great stuff. And one of the other news that came out, which I think is the greatest news of them all, is the US Open for the women next year or this year. I mean, the purse has nearly doubled, 5.5 to 10 million, right? The sponsor, it's slipping my mind right now.
ProMedica.
Yeah, ProMedica.
Presenting sponsor, yes.
Presenting sponsor of the United States Women's Open. And they've taken it to $10 million, right? I mean, it's one thing to say, grow the game, make a difference, elevate. It's another thing to put your money right into it and make decisions and say, we're doing it. We're pushing forward. And this is going to be the biggest person, obviously women's golf, but as I understand, women's sport, right?
I believe that's right. Yeah, I'm going to steal a Mike Wan line right now and claim it as my own. But when he was at the ProMedica announcement, he said, you know, millions of girls are going to wake up tomorrow and have a bigger dream. They're going to start to dream bigger because of this announcement. It was like, dang, like that was, and that's what makes him so special. But, you know, he thinks that way. It's like, it's not about this player, you know, these players, these great players that are playing now in 2022 at Pine Needles, right? It's not about them. Like, it is like, we're going to pay them more because we're going to start to give them what they deserve, right? Like, but what about the next generation? How does this make the 9-year-old girl say, I want to play golf, right? And so how do you like continue to build on that? And what's it do for other LPGA events? Do they start going, wow, man, we need to step up our game. We need to work harder. And just how do you continue to elevate it? And you know what? We went out on a limb, or they went out on a limb, because we've never had a presenting sponsor. And the one thing that, you know, like the PGA of America had a presenting sponsor, the RNA has a presenting sponsor. It's how do you keep up with the times, but how do you really just change it? Right? How do you take it to the next level? And, you know, like the girls have been underpaid forever. Like, they are so darn good, and they're so much fun to watch. Like, I love watching LPGA golf because they play it, in my mind, and I could be wrong, like tactically correct, right?
Right.
It's a very much of an X and O game rather than a, you know, here we go picking on Bryson and bomb it and find it and you know, like, but that's the way he plays. He's chosen to play that game, so that's very tactical on his part. But like, just, you know, how many people can actually do that? How many people are gifted like that guy to actually do that? So I just think they can learn so much more. Just that the normal mortal golfer can learn so much more about watching the LPGA Tour and how they play it, how they approach the game, and so I mean, I just think it's a great step for women's golf to take them to the next level, to really showcase how great they are, and to give them something to really just strive for, right? Like, it's we, you know, being narcissistic or arrogant here, like, we always thought that we had the best championship. We always thought the U.S. Women's Open was head and shoulders above every other championship. And we wanted the players to think the same way. And this now really solidifies it. And
Yep.
it's, we're going to have to constantly try to keep getting better. And, like we're doing that by taking them to better golf courses, taking them to these cathedrals of American golf. You got Marion, like Pine Needles is amazing.
Yep.
Lancaster is super underrated.
Pebble Beach, 2023.
Pebble Beach, Riviera, Pinehurst, and I believe there's way more to come on that.
Oakmont,
and I'm probably missing a couple, but let's put them on the grandest stage to showcase how grand these players are.
Yeah.
Let's throw a big purse at them and let's see what happens. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And ProMedic has been amazing.
Yeah, ProMedica's, you have to tip your cap and clap your hand to what's happening there with ProMedica and USGA. 10 million. Now they're playing same venues as these men. So, I think about my 6-year-old daughter, and that's what she's going to watch now as she starts to grow older. And they're the money's okay. Yeah. And then, they're playing on the same courses. And that's a huge step in the right direction. I think you make good points on the LPGA Tour. When you watch the LPGA Tour, you still have some balance of, you have the bomber to some degree, like a Nelly Korda, Patty, and then you have Lexi Thompson, of course, who hits it a long ways. And these girls are in the top 10, but then you have the plotter like the Lydia Ko, the Jing Young Ko. You still get, I don't know, it just feels like it can go either way. It feels more 50-50, and where on the PGA Tour, it's definitely lenient towards Bryson and DJ and Rory and those guys that can really rip it out there, go find it. Okay, I'm hitting 9-iron from the rough, but that's better than hitting, 7-iron or 6-iron from back there because I can still launch it. The rough's not that long. And the greens are still soft in Hawaii and I can stop it. And so it's, the needle has definitely shifted that way. But in the LPGA Tour, it still feels like it's pretty 50-50. So kudos to you guys. I want to ask you about one more thing because I know you're busy. It's like someone poked in there. You probably have another me.
My office is right next to the bathroom. Is anybody in the bathroom? I'm like, bathroom monitor. Maybe that shows you what they think of me here. But anyway, please.
Someone poked your head and get in. We got this driver meeting. Phil's on the conference call. He wants to talk to us. Can we do 46 and a half? All right.
I just work here, man.
So tell us about the Adaptive Open. I really, this is pretty cool. It was announced the USGA's 15th annual national championship in December. And for those of you that don't know, this tournament includes 96 players, male and female, professional or amateur, and they have either a physical impairment, a sensory impairment, or an intellectual impairment. This is really cool to see in the sport. It really is something like this for these individuals that have these impairments to be able to go and compete in a tournament put on by the USGA. This is pretty cool stuff here.
Once again, it's how do you make dreams come true, right? How do you make people with, that are eligible to play in this championship? How do you make them dream bigger? Mm-hmm. Right? Like give them an opportunity to showcase their talents and this would have come out many years ago if it wasn't for COVID, right? Like it was ready to go, and then all of a sudden the world shut down. But anyway, another topic. This is just another way for them to recognize, because we have every other championship, and like how do you bring this to showcase these players' talents? And they're said before, they're unbelievable. To see somebody come out, it's like, I'm sure you've seen Dennis Walter's show.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible what this guy can do with, with some of his, physicality. Like he is phenomenal to watch
Mhm.
him go out and do what he does, and super entertaining, and like, but that's his show. But like, how many others are there out there that don't have a place to play? And how do you make them excited about the game? And how do you bring more people into the game? Like, how do you influence or excite players that would have never been involved in the game?
Yeah.
And it's like golf brings that opportunity. And if this championship brings that opportunity to others that are, that don't know this is possible, it can bring inspiration. And I think that's what it is, to have these players be inspiring to others and to have a chance to showcase what they do. I mean, it's a shame that it wasn't brought out earlier. And now that it's here, it's super exciting. And I know it's one of those days that I want to circle on my calendar to be there to watch the first tee ball.
Oh, yeah.
It's that important, right?
Yeah. Well, congrats on everything there. It's cool to see the momentum, and look, there's always hard decisions to be made, and always going to be pushback, but it just feels like the USGA has really got a lot of nice stuff going on. I wanted to catch up on some of these topics, and appreciate your honesty and transparency with all that. And man, we're excited for a full slate of golf with USGA tournaments. It's right. Fingers crossed. We're going to make it.
I think we'll be okay. And I hope so. As somebody said, as Reg Jones said, you got to think positive and test negative, right? Just so. But I don't know. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, Jace.
There's been so much great stuff, and like even with the Corn Ferry Tour exemption, it's just Monday. It's that's always kind of held a warm place in my heart. That tour.
Well, you've only won it 7 times out there on the Corn Ferry Tour, for crying out loud. Of course, it did.
Crash Davis. Right?
I had a feeling you were behind that Corn Ferry Tour news. I was like, well, of course it makes sense. No one's won more Corn Ferry Tour events than the Jason Gore.
I was involved in the conversation.
Well, yeah. And then, the other interesting one before I let you go is the amateur, right? Like, you guys are, you've been a little more leniency on the advertising and promotion around
Name, image,
money being exchanged as from amateur golf, and they can accept up to $1,000 from a scratch perspective, right? From a gross perspective. But as soon as they hold on a second here, I'm kind of butchering this, but I have
name, image, likeness deal, right, with the NCAA players and
right. So all advertising expense related and sponsorship restrictions were removed. And then, so basically an amateur can accept a prize with a value exceeding $1,000 in a scratch competition. They'll lose their amateur status if they accept a prize value exceeding 1,000. So they'll lose it if they exceed 1,000. They'll lose it if they play as a professional. They'll lose it if they accept payment for giving instruction. You hear that out there? Something in the male gene that says, look, I'm a teacher, and they're, I don't think most of them are getting paid, but I'm watching. So they lose amateur status if they accept employment as a golf club professional or association of pro golfers. So yeah, they kind of loosened that up a little bit, which I think was a good move for the amateurs. So the USGA, I mean, it's looking out, you got the pro game, you got the amateur game, a lot of momentum. Just let's keep pushing it forward, right? And keep playing.
Well, once again, it's trying to provide opportunities for these players. And, I think when NCAA changed with their whole name, image, likeness, like we kind of got handcuffed. We had to kind of get with the time. And, like me personally, I won't speak for anybody else in the building, but it was hard. Like I had to hold my nose a little bit. Like, that line between amateur and pro is getting a little muddied. And, but, hey, listen, I've been wrong before. Good for them.
Yeah.
They're basically being treated like professional without being able to play for money. So it's, with logos and stuff like that. And obviously there's some restrictions on logos, but it's more opportunities. If somebody's willing to go out there and pay these top amateurs to play. Like, good for them.
It's a small percent. We're talking like it's
Very.
yeah. I mean, we're talking very, very handful of people here.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, before that would have been a big no-no. But it's like,
Yeah,
so the NCAA had to do it.
yeah. It's the times.
It is.
It's the times. And one thing that's happening for sure, and I see it because I'm here at green grass facilities, is people are playing golf. I mean, I'll tell you right now, like, you want to play this weekend here in Ponte Vedra, you better get on it. You better make a call here in the next 24 hours because, you start pushing it to Friday and, most of these places are, hey, yeah, we'll get you out about 4:30. I mean, what?
Yeah.
I can't even get 9 holes in it, so
It's awesome. Like, I love it. Like, just to hear of some of these clubs that that were getting ready to close their doors and now they have waiting lists, or,
yep.
Where you couldn't fill a tee time at a public golf course. Now you have to get on it if you want to play. And like, listen, I want people to love the game and just to be exposed to the game and to get them over that level of like, oh boy, like I can't live this weekend without going to play golf.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think it's fantastic.
There's some courses being gobbled up right now in real estate, which is not the end of the world. I think there was a lot of courses being, we had probably a few too many. And so I think now with the inventory probably getting a little closer to right, this nice surge, people coming back to the game, people coming into the game, look, there's something golf can mean different things to different people. You want that country club experience and this and that, and, a collar and buttoned up and that fine dining and this and that, like that's there. You want to go more casual with your buddies, play a little music, have a cigar, run a little bit, like there's, you can loosen it up a little more over here. Like there's different ways to access the sport. And I think everybody has to have an open mind to that. I mean, it's the United States of America. There you have that freedom. Golf can have that freedom too. And I think it's been a really important curve to kind of shift that way some, right, and loosen up a little bit, right? And yet it's a gentleman's sport. There's rules and this and that, but how serious do you want to take it, right? And then I think, okay, yeah, I want to get over here and I want to play more tournament golf and I want to get in with more single-digit handicappers. Well, they're over here, so okay, yeah, I can go over there now too. So it's, look, it can mean different things to different people. The game means it's different for you now, Jason, than it was 15 years ago.
There's no question. And like people ask me, one of the weird topics in the past, couple of years is hoodies.
Yeah.
Right. Like, listen, I don't care what you wear on the golf course. Just go be on the golf course. And you know what? Like, I believe like dress codes or music or cigars, whatever, pick your topic. It's more of like a 10th Amendment kind of deal. Like, listen, you and I, we can go out to our local public golf course and wear our cargo shorts and our hoodies and play the music and, be totally welcome. But if we're going to go play a nicer club, if we're going to go play Pine Valley, since I'm
right,
like, we know better.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
the rules are right.
Yeah. You take the person that's out there,
yeah,
female going to play in their, in their, let's just say casual wear and say, hey, we're going to go play Pine Valley. And guess what? They'll abide by the rule. Like it's So
yeah, exactly.
Golfers are very adaptive to doing that, and I don't care what you do, just go play. Just go play. Yeah. Right? If you're at the local public, go have a great time, but go play golf. If you're at an elite club, go play golf. But follow their guidelines. But like I said, just go play golf.
Yeah.
I want you to love the game that we all love.
Yeah, there's something there for everybody. And then, hey, turn the TV on when the USGA events are on and turn your phone on and watch it and stream it and right. And like all that too. So it's, we're set up. We're really set up nicely. It's, there's a lot of good momentum, fingers crossed here. And obviously this COVID and health and, but I think we're going to be fine. I mean, Tiger's back in the mix, Phil playing good golf. I saw Annika maybe didn't rule out wanting to come back and play in the United States women. I'm what? And then you have all this young, talent coming up and bubble up underneath. I mean, it's really, and it's an exciting time. And let's just kind of keep the mojo pushing forward. And I think hopefully this podcast just did a very small part in that. And I appreciate your time for coming on out and spreading the good word. Appreciate it, Jason.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy spending time with you, Travis. Thanks, bud.